"She's nothing." My aunt said it in court, and no one stopped her. Not the judge, not her lawyer, not even the people who knew me my whole life. The room went completely silent. Then she smiled, like she'd already won. That's when the judge asked, "Do you have proof?" She said yes, confident. Like this was over. But she didn't know. I had something she couldn't explain. I reached into my bag and pulled out a letter. Written the year I was born, in my father's handwriting, and the moment it was read in that courtroom, everything she said about me collapsed. My name is Emma Carter. I'm 30 years old. And 2 weeks before that hearing, I found the truth my mother hid for 30 years. The house didn't feel empty. It felt like something had been left behind, and after what happened in that courtroom, I knew exactly what it was: truth. 2 weeks earlier, my aunt stood in court and called me nothing. And for a moment, no one said she was wrong. That should have been the end of it. But it wasn't. Because of a letter my father wrote the year I was born. A letter my mother hid for 30 years. And now I was standing in her house, trying to figure out what else she kept from me. I didn't move slowly. I didn't hesitate. I walked straight to her bedroom. The door was open. Same as the day she died, no one had gone inside since, including me. Until now, the smell was the same: lavender, lemon polish, clean, controlled, familiar. Nothing looked out of place. That was the problem. Because I knew now, this room had been hiding something. I stepped toward the dresser, opened the first drawer. Nothing. Closed it. Second drawer, cards, old ones. I recognized my handwriting. I shut it, didn't read, didn't stop. Third drawer, paperwork, organized, neat, exactly how she always kept things. I let out a slow breath. Too normal, still too normal. Which meant, whatever I was looking for wasn't obvious. I stepped back, scanned the room again, and that's when I saw it: the mirror. Same place, same angle. But now, it felt different, like I'd missed something before. I walked toward it, slower this time, focused. Something about it felt wrong. I couldn't explain why. I just knew. I reached out, pressed the edge of the frame. It moved. Slightly. But enough. And that's when my chest tightened. Because my mother didn't keep things loose. Ever. If something shifted, there was a reason. I pressed again. Harder. The mirror tilted forward. And something slid out. Paper against wood. I froze. An envelope. Old. See, waiting. My eyes dropped to the name. Linda. My mother. And then, the handwriting. I didn't need to think about it. I knew. My father. The same tight letters. The same controlled strokes. I had seen it my entire life. I picked it up slowly. It felt light. Too light for something that suddenly felt this important. I sat on the edge of the bed. And stopped. Because this was the moment. The one you don't get to undo. I could put it back. Walk out. Pretend I never found it. Go back to the version of my life that made sense. Or, I could open it. And find out what my parents never told me. I stared at it for a few seconds longer. Then I broke the seal. The paper unfolded easily. Thin. Worn. Dated the year I was born. My chest tightened. Not panic. Something quieter. Like I already knew this mattered. I started reading. Linda. That was all it took. Because something in the way it was written felt final, deliberate, like a decision had been made. A long time ago. I kept going. I had the blood test done. I stopped. Everything inside me went still. I didn't want to read the next line, but I did. I know she isn't mine. The words didn't echo. They didn't hit all at once. They just settled, quietly, like they had been waiting. I read the rest, every word, slowly, carefully, because now I needed to understand everything. My father knew. From the beginning, and he stayed anyway. Chose me anyway, every day. And my mother knew that he knew. And still, she never told me, not once, not in 30 years. I lowered the paper. Looked at my hands, still steady. I expected anger, Shock. Something louder. But this wasn't loud. It was quiet. The kind of quiet that changes things permanently. I turned the paper over, and that's when I saw it. A phone number, different ink. Added later, no name, no explanation, just 10 digits. I stared at it. Because something about it felt intentional. Not random. Not forgotten. Placed. Like the letter wasn't just hidden. It was meant to be found. And suddenly, one question became clear. Why would my father write this? And leave a number behind? I looked around the room again. The same room. The same furniture. The same life I thought I understood. But it didn't feel the same anymore. Because now I knew. This wasn't where the story ended. This was where it started. I looked back down at the number. And for the first time, I understood what it really was. Not a detail. Not an accident. I dialed the number. It rang once. Then, Emma. I froze. I hadn't said anything. I've been waiting for this call for 11 years. My grip tightened. Who is this? Thomas Beckett. The name meant nothing. But the next line did. Your father came to see me before he died. I stopped breathing. My father is dead. I know. A pause. Then, he told me about the letter. I looked at it on the counter. Everything shifted. He said you'd find it. My chest tightened. And when you called. Another pause. I should be ready. I swallowed. Ready for what? That hit harder than I expected. Then tell me. Not over the phone. Of course. We're Millbrook. He didn't hesitate. 45 minutes from you. 1. Like he'd been waiting his whole life for this moment. I'm coming. The call ended. Silence. Then, a car pulled into the driveway. Too soon. I didn't need to check. She's already here. The door opened. Emma. My aunt walked in. Derek went straight to the garage, not even pretending. We came to help. I almost laughed. With what? The house. Too fast. Way too fast. Your mother wanted me to handle things. There it was. Already, I turned toward the garage. Derek was opening boxes. My father's tools. Leave it. It's just stuff. I stepped closer. It's not yours. He looked at me. Then kept going. Testing me. I turned back to her. She stepped closer. Lower voice now. We should talk about ownership. Ownership, not grief. Not loss. Ownership. I'm not signing anything. Her smile didn't change. You don't want to make this difficult. There it was again. A threat. Quiet, controlled. But now, I understood something she didn't, because now I had proof. Not everything, but enough. You're too late, I said. That landed. Small shift. But I saw it. She hadn't expected that. Paperwork is already in motion, she said. Of course it was. She thought she had already won. But she didn't know. Someone else was waiting for me. I picked up the envelope, put it in my bag, grabbed my keys. I'm going out. Where? She asked. I stopped at the door. Looked back at her this time, no hesitation. To find out what you're hiding. Her smile broke. Just for a second. That was enough. I walked out. Didn't wait, didn't explain. Because now, this wasn't about reacting anymore. This was about getting ahead. And 45 minutes away was the man who knew my name. Before I said a word. The drive to Millbrook felt shorter than it should have. Or maybe I just didn't notice it. Because my mind wasn't on the road. It was on one sentence. Your father came to see me before he died. That didn't fit. Not with what I knew. Not with who he was in those last months. He barely had the strength to leave the house. And yet, he drove 45 minutes. To sit with a man I had never heard of. Why? The question stayed with me the entire drive. And I didn't realize how tight I was gripping the steering wheel. Until I pulled up in front of the house. Small. White siding. A detached workshop off to the side. Nothing special. Nothing that explained anything. But he was already outside, waiting. Like he knew exactly when I'd arrive. Tall. Older silver hair, and the moment he looked at me, something in my chest shifted, not recognition, not exactly, something quieter, familiar in a way I couldn't explain. "You came," he said. Simple, like that was all that mattered. I stepped out of the car. Didn't move closer yet. He nodded. "That's me." A pause. Then, "I didn't think it would take this long." That landed differently. "What do you mean?" I asked. His eyes didn't leave mine. "I thought you'd call years ago?" "Years." That word stayed there for a second. "Heavy?" "Why would I?" I said. "You didn't even know I existed." "Exactly, that was the point." He took a slow breath. "Come in." The house was quiet, clean, but lived in a table. 2 chairs. A box sitting in the center, already open, waiting. He didn't sit right away. Neither did I. Because this didn't feel like a normal conversation. It felt like something that had been delayed for decades. "You said my father came to see you." I said. "Start there." He nodded. "Didn't rush. He came in 2014. That matched a year before my dad died." I looked tired, Thomas continued, but clear, focused. Another pause. "He told me 3 things. 3. Not 1, not everything. 3. Thomas said, "Told me about you." I didn't move. Didn't speak. Because something about the way he said it made it feel bigger than it should have. "He told me you were my daughter." The room went completely still. Not loud, not dramatic, just still, like everything had stopped for a second. I didn't react. Not immediately, because I needed to be sure I heard him right. "My what?" "My daughter," he repeated, no hesitation, no doubt, like he'd said it before, many times. I let out a slow breath. "That doesn't make sense." "It didn't to me either," he said. "First." Another pause. Then. "He told me he knew from the beginning." That hit harder. "From when you were 6 months old," Thomas added. "The letter, the blood test, everything lined up." "He stayed anyway?" Thomas said. "He said it wasn't even a decision." I looked down for a second, then back at him. Because that part mattered more than anything. "And you?" I asked. "Why didn't you come find me?" That question had been sitting there, waiting, and now it was out. He didn't answer right away. "Which told me everything. He wouldn't let me," Thomas said finally. "He made that clear?" "Oh, your mother?" "Of course. She told me if I ever tried to contact you, she'd file harassment charges." I stared at him, trying to read if that sounded like her. It did. Too easily. "I didn't want to risk it," he said. "I didn't want to make your life worse, like not knowing was better, like silence was safer." I didn't argue, because I understood something now that I hadn't before. People don't always make the right decision. They make the decision they think will hurt the least, and sometimes they're wrong. "What was the second thing?" I asked. He glanced at the box on the table, then back at me. "That your mother did something," he said. "Something your father never forgave." My chest tightened again. "The land," I said. The words came out before I thought about them. He nodded. "You know about that part." "Only what was in the letter." "That's not all of it," he said. Of course it wasn't. He reached into the box, pulled out a folder, set it on the table, didn't open yet. "In 1993, he said, your mother and your aunt created a company." My attention sharpened instantly. "A company?" The name hit immediately. "That's my mom's maiden name." "And your aunt's," he added. "Of course. They used it to transfer mineral rights," he continued. "From your grandmother's land." I felt something shift again, this time sharper. They told her it was paperwork. For taxes. That sounded familiar. Too familiar. "She signed it," he said. "But she didn't understand what she was signing." A pause. Then, "They sold it 5 weeks later." I stared at him. "How much?" 47,000. That wasn't the part that mattered. What happened to the land? "They kept the rights." Another pause. Then the part that changed everything. They've been collecting money from it ever since. I didn't move. Didn't speak. Because now, this wasn't just about the past. This was still happening. How much? I asked. About 800 every quarter. I did the math in my head. Didn't need a calculator. Years, decades. That's over 60,000, I said quietly. He nodded. And it's still going to your aunt. That connected everything. The house, the pressure, the paperwork. She wasn't just trying to take control. She was trying to protect what she already had. And if I didn't stop her, she'd keep it. Everything. I looked at the folder. Then at him. What's the third thing? I asked. He held my gaze. Longer this time. Like this one mattered more. He told me about the letter. I didn't react. Because I already knew that part. But then, he told me where he hid it. That changed it. He wanted you to find it, Thomas said. He said one day you would. And when you did. Another pause. I looked down at the table. At the folder. At the box. At everything that had been waiting here, for years. And for the first time, I understood something clearly. This wasn't an accident. This wasn't coincidence. This was planned. By a man who knew he was running out of time. Why didn't he just tell me? I asked. Thomas didn't answer immediately. He was afraid, he said finally. Of what? That you'd look at him differently. That landed. Quiet. Heavy. Because I knew that feeling. And for a second, I couldn't even be angry about it. I looked back at the folder, then at Thomas. What's in there? I asked. He pushed it toward me. Proof. One word. But it carried everything. I placed my hand on it. Didn't open it yet. Because now I understood. This wasn't just about finding the truth. This was about what I was going to do with it. I didn't open the folder right away. I just looked at it. Because now I understood something I hadn't before. This wasn't just proof. This was leverage. And once I opened it, there was no going back. Thomas didn't rush me, didn't push. He just stood there, watching, waiting, like he'd done this before. Like he already knew what this moment felt like. I finally opened it. The first page wasn't complicated. No legal jargon, no confusion. Just names. Linda Harmon, Pamela Harmon, my mother, my aunt, side by side. Registered owners. Harmon Holdings, that alone was enough. But it wasn't the part that hit hardest, it was the next page, a land transfer dated 1993, from Evelyn Carter, my grandmother, to Harmon Holdings. I felt my chest assigned it. I asked. Thomas nodded. But she didn't understand it. Of course she didn't. Because my mother wouldn't have done it any other way. What did they tell her? I asked. That it was a tax adjustment. I let out a breath. Slow. Controlled. Because that part wasn't surprising. It was predictable. What wasn't predictable was what came next. Look at the date, he said. I did. 5 weeks later. Same land. Same property sold. Different name. I read. How much? 47,000? I nodded slowly. Still processing. Still building the picture. They sold it immediately. I said. Yes. No hesitation. No doubt. But they didn't sell everything. That made me look up. What do you mean? Thomas pulled out one more document. Set it in front of me. This is the part your father couldn't prove back then. I looked down. Read it once. Then again, because the first time didn't fully land. They kept the mineral rights. I said quietly. Yes. The room felt smaller again. They've been collecting money ever since. I leaned back slightly, did the math again. Years? Decades? Every quarter, I asked. Roughly. I shook my head, not in disbelief, in understanding, because now, everything made sense, the urgency, the pressure, the way my aunt showed up. Like she already owned the place. She wasn't just trying to take the house. She was protecting something bigger. Something ongoing. How much total? I asked. Thomas didn't answer right away. Then, over 60,000. There it was. The number, the motive, the reason. And suddenly, this wasn't just family drama anymore. This was fraud, long-term, deliberate, profitable. I closed the folder slowly. But something else was already bothering me. Something small, but sharp. But this has been happening for years. I looked at him. Why didn't anyone stop it? Thomas held my gaze. Then said something I didn't expect. Your father tried. That changed everything. How? He went to a lawyer. That made sense. He couldn't prove intent. Thomas continued. He knew what they did, but not how they did it. That sounded like him. Careful, precise, never acting without proof. But that's not the part he was most worried about. Thomas added. What was? Just for a second. Then, you. That landed harder than anything else. He knew if he pushed too hard, your mother would tell you the truth. The room went quiet again. Not heavy, just clear. He didn't want to lose you, Thomas said. I looked down at the folder, at the signatures, at everything that had been hidden, and for the first time, I understood the trade he made. Truth. For time. And he chose time. I closed the folder completely, then looked back up. So what changes now? I asked. Thomas didn't answer. Because he didn't need to. I already knew everything, because now, this wasn't suspicion. This was evidence. And evidence changes everything. I stood up, grabbed the folder, held it firmly this time. Not cautiously. Firm. Decided. I'm going back, I said, to the house. Thomas nodded, but didn't move. Not yet. There's something else, he said. Of course there was. There always was. What? He reached into the box again, pulled out something smaller this time, a key, brass, old, worn at the edges. I stared at it, because I recognized it. Immediately, I stopped. I said. He nodded. She took it. The words came out before I thought about them. My aunt. Of course she did. She was in the basement, I said slowly. She had something in her hand. Now it made sense. She didn't just come for the house, I added. No. A pause. Then, she came for what's inside that safe. That was it. That was the missing piece. The one thing that didn't fit before. Now did. She knows, I said. Yes. And she's trying to get to it before I do. Thomas didn't answer. He didn't need to. Because now, everything was clear. The timing, the pressure, the paperwork, the control. This wasn't random. This was a race. And I was already behind. I turned toward the door, didn't hesitate this time, because now, I wasn't looking for answers anymore. I had them. Now, I was going to use them. I didn't slow down on the drive back. Not this time, because now, this wasn't confusion anymore. This was clarity. And clarity moves fast. I pulled into the driveway. Her car was still there. Of course it was. I stepped out, didn't pause, didn't think. I felt different now. Not unfamiliar, not heavy, controlled by her, but not for long. Voices. From the basement, I moved toward the door, stopped halfway down the stairs, and listened. You said it would be in here? Derek. Lower voice, tense. It is, my aunt said. Sharp, controlled. You just have to look properly. A pause. Then, I'm not leaving until we find it. That was it. No pretending. No soft tone. Just truth. They weren't sorting anything. They were searching. For the safe. For whatever was inside it. I stepped down slowly. Didn't rush. Because I didn't need to anymore. I wouldn't do that. My voice cut through the room. Both of them froze. Turned. At the same time. And for a second, no one spoke. Because something had shifted. Not the room. Me. You're back early, my aunt said. Smile still there but thinner now. Controlled. Careful. I found what you were looking for, I said. That landed. Instantly. Derek straightened. What are you talking about? I didn't answer him. I looked at her. Only her, the company? I said. Harmon Holdings. The smile dropped, not completely, but enough. I don't know what you mean, she said too fast. Too clean, a lie. I have the documents, I added. Silence, real silence this time. No movement. You went digging, she said. Not a question. A statement. Yes. Another pause. Then. You shouldn't have done that. There it was. Not anger. Not warning. Clean. Cold. I stepped closer. One transfer, I said. 5 weeks later, sold. Her jaw tightened. They kept the mineral rights. Now Derek looked at her. Not me, her. Because even he didn't know everything. And the payments, I added. Still going. Every quarter. That was the break. Small, but visible. Derek's expression changed. You said that was done, he said. She didn't look at him. Didn't respond. Because she couldn't. Because now the story she'd been controlling was breaking. You lied to him too, I said quietly. That hit harder than anything else. Because now, she wasn't in control of the room anymore. She was reacting. I did what I had to do, she snapped. Their real tone, not soft, not controlled. Sharp, defensive. For what? I asked. For survival. She laughed once, short, dry. You think your grandmother could manage that land, she said. You think your father understood how any of this worked. There it was. The logic she'd been using for years. They were losing money, she continued. I fixed it. No, I said. You took it. Silence. Then, you don't understand how the world works, she said. I understand enough, I replied. I reached into my bag, pulled out the folder, set it on the table. Hard, not gently, enough to prove it. Her eyes dropped to it, just for a second. That was all I needed, she said. Wrong move. Why not? I asked. No answer. Because she knew. Because now, this wasn't just family anymore. And the will, I added. That got her attention immediate. What about it? She said. It's fake. Derek looked at her again, now fully. What? She didn't answer. Because she couldn't keep up anymore. Signature doesn't match, I said. I had it checked. That wasn't entirely true yet. But it would be, and she knew it. You forged it, I finished. That was the moment. The real one. The shift. Because now, there was no version of this, where she stayed in control. You don't know what you're saying, she said. But her voice wasn't steady anymore. I stepped closer, I said. That stopped everything. Derek turned. What safe? Too late. She didn't move, didn't speak. Because now. I saw the key. I added. That was the second break. Bigger, more visible. You took it. Derek looked at her. Really looked this time. What is she talking about? She didn't answer. Because there wasn't a clean answer anymore. Just truth. And truth. I want it, I said. That was new, not a request. A demand. She looked at me. And for the first time, person, because I wasn't. Give me the key. Silence. Then, slowly, she reached into her pocket, pulled it out, held it. Like she was deciding something. Then, she dropped it on the table. Metal against wood. Sharp, final. You have no idea what you're walking into, she said maybe. But that didn't matter anymore. Neither do you, I replied. Derek stepped back. Distance now. Between them. Because now, he understood something too. This wasn't a small thing. This wasn't just paperwork. This was bigger. Much bigger. I picked up the key, held it firmly. Not carefully, not uncertainly, firm, controlled. Because now, this wasn't her house anymore. And it definitely wasn't her story. I looked at her one last time. You're done here, I said. No emotion. No anger. Just truth. And that hit harder than anything else. Because she knew. I meant it. The key felt heavier than it should have. Small, worn, ordinary. But now, everything depended on it. I didn't say anything. Didn't look at her again. I turned. walked toward the basement stairs, slow, controlled, because this wasn't panic anymore. This was precision. Behind me, no one followed at first. Then I heard it, footsteps, one then another. Derek, of course. Curiosity beats loyalty every time. The basement was colder, darker, unfinished concrete. The same space I'd walked past 100 times, without ever seeing it. The safe was exactly where I remembered. Built into the wall, half hidden behind old storage boxes. Like it was never meant to be obvious, but never meant to be moved either. I stepped closer, ran my hand over the metal, cold, solid, real. This wasn't new, this had been here for years, waiting, just like everything else. You really think something's in there? Derek asked behind me. His voice had changed. Less confident, more careful. I didn't answer. Because now, I didn't need to. I inserted the key. It fit perfectly. Of course it did. A small click. Louder than it should have been. Or maybe everything just felt louder now I turned it. The lock released. For a second, I didn't open it. Because this was the moment. Everything before this was questions. Everything after would be answers. I pulled the door open. Slow, deliberate. No rush. Because I needed to see every as it was. Inside, 3 things. No more, no less. A folder, a sealed envelope, and a small metal box. I didn't touch anything yet, just looked, because even that felt heavy. Derek stepped closer. What is it? I reached in, pulled out the folder first, set it on the workbench, opened it, and immediately, I understood why my aunt was desperate. Bank statements. Not old recent. Last year. This year. Quarterly deposits. Same source. Same amount. Prairie Basin Energy. Still paying. Still active. Still hers. But that wasn't the part that changed everything. It was the name on the account. Not just hers. 2 names. Pamela Osborne. Linda Shaw. My mother. Still connected. Even after everything. She never stopped, I said quietly. Derek leaned closer. What does that mean? It means this wasn't just past fraud, I said. This was ongoing. His expression shifted. Because now, he wasn't just involved, he was exposed. You didn't know? I asked. He didn't answer. Which was answer enough. I closed the folder. Set it aside. Then picked up the envelope, my name. Handwritten. Not hers, not my mother's. I already knew whose it was. I opened it. 1 page, same handwriting. Tighter now, older. But steady. I read it once. Then again, because it didn't hit all at once. It unfolded line by line. Emma, if you're reading this, it means I was right. Your mother wouldn't stop. I couldn't prove it then. But I knew she'd keep going. That's why I kept copies. Everything you need is in this safe. Not to hurt her, to protect you. If it ever comes to it, choose the truth, even if it costs you everything. Dad, I lowered the paper slowly. Didn't speak, because I couldn't, not yet, because that was the part that hit. Not the fraud, not the money, him, still protecting me, even after he was gone. I took a breath, then reached for the last item, the metal box, smaller, heavier than it looked, no key. Just a latch. I opened it. Inside, photoed, faded, but clear. My grandmother, sitting at the table, papers in front of her. My mother beside her, smiling. Too easily, too comfortably. And behind them, my aunt, watching, not smiling, not part of it. Just there, observing, waiting. I flipped to the next one. The paper. The signature. My grandmother's hand, mid-sign. And my mother, guiding it. That was it. Not suggestion, not assumption. Proof. Clear, undeniable, deliberate. She knew, I said, more to myself than anyone else. She knew exactly what she was doing. Silence behind me, heavy, real. Because now, there was no version of this that could be explained away. No misunderstanding, no confusion, just truth. I closed the box slowly. Looked at everything on the table. The folder, the letter. The photos, all of it, waiting for this moment. And suddenly, everything connected. The letter behind the mirror, the number, The visit in 2014, the lawyer, the safe. My father hadn't just suspected something, he'd prepared for it. Quietly, carefully, for years. And now, it was mine. Not just the truth, the responsibility. I picked up the letter again, folded it. Because this one wasn't just evidence. It was a decision. Behind me, my aunt finally spoke. "You don't understand what you're doing." I didn't turn around. Not yet, because now I didn't need to react. "I understand enough," I said. Calm. Steady, controlled. "You're going to destroy this family," she said. That word again. Family. Used like a shield. Used like a weapon. I turned this time. Looked at her directly. "You did that already," I said. Silence, no argument, no defense, because now she had nothing left to stand on. Just a story. That didn't work anymore. I picked up the folder, the box, the envelope, held all of it, not carefully, not cautiously. Secure. Because now, this wasn't hidden anymore. And for the first time, the truth wasn't behind anything. It was in my hands. The court notice came 2 days later. Not dramatic, not unexpected, just a plain envelope, stamped, official, and final probate hearing 19 Hoders AM, that was it. No emotion, no explanation. Just a time, and a room where everything would be decided. I didn't tell her, didn't call, didn't warn. Because she already knew she had to. People like her don't wait to be surprised. They prepare. And she had been preparing for this, long before I even found the letter. The morning of the hearing, she was already there. Of course she was, standing near the front, dressed perfectly, calm, composed, like nothing could touch her. Derek beside her, arms crossed, watching the room, watching me, measuring, same as always. But something was different this time, subtle, but real. He wasn't standing close to her anymore, not like before. Not like someone who trusted her completely. Good. I walked in, didn't rush, didn't look around. Straight line forward. Because this wasn't about nerves anymore. This was about control. And, for the first time, I had it. A few people turned, whispered, small town. Faster than truth. But today, truth was here. In my hands. In my bag. In the evidence she couldn't explain away. She saw me. Of course she did. Her expression didn't change, but her eyes shifted. Just slightly. That was enough. "You actually came?" she said. Soft. Controlled. Like this was still a conversation she could manage. "I said I would," I replied. Simple, no emotion. That bothered her more than anything. "You're making a mistake," she said quietly. There it was again. Different room. "I don't think I am," I said. A pause. Then, "You don't understand how this works." That made me look at her. Really look. Because that was the problem. She thought I didn't understand. She thought I was still behind, still reacting, still trying to catch up. But I wasn't, not anymore. "I understand enough," I said. And that, small, but visible, the room filled slowly. Lawyers, clerks, a few observers. People who had no idea what they were about to watch. To them, this was routine, paperwork, property, signatures. But to me, this was everything. Because this was where the story she built was going to fall apart. Emma Shaw. My name, clear, official. I stepped forward, didn't hesitate, didn't look back. Because there was nothing behind me anymore. Only forward, only truth. We sat across from each other. Same table. Same space. Not anymore. Her lawyer spoke first. Confident, smooth. The decedent expressed clear intent. Intent. That word again. Used like a shield. Used like proof. She wished to transfer ownership of the property. I didn't interrupt. Didn't react. Because this part didn't matter. Not yet. Let them speak. Let them build it. Because the higher they built it, the harder it would fall. And we have documentation supporting this claim. That was my cue. I placed the folder on the table. Gently. Not aggressive. Not dramatic. Just present. Real. "Before we proceed," I said, calm, Clear. I'd like to submit additional documents. The room shifted, slightly. But enough. Her lawyer paused, looked at the folder, then at me. What documents? He asked. Relevant ones, I replied. No explanation, no overtalking. Because now, I didn't need to explain. The documents would do that for me. The judge nodded. Go ahead. That was it. Permission, and everything changed. I opened the folder, pulled out the first document, placed it in front of the judge. Harmon Holdings, I said. 2 words, that's all it took. My aunt didn't move, but I saw at the tension immediate. Registered 1993, I continued. Owners Linda Harmon and Pamela Harmon. Now Derek looked at her. Fully, because now he was hearing it in a room where it mattered. Relevant how? Her lawyer asked. Good question, plea. Because the property in question was transferred through this company. Silence. Small, but growing. I placed the next document down. 5 weeks later sold. Then the next. Mineral rights retained. Now the room was paying attention. Watching. Because now, this wasn't routine anymore. This was something else. And the payments? I said. I placed the bank statements down. 1 every quarter. Pause. Still active. That was the moment. The shift. The real one. Because now, this wasn't past. This was present, ongoing, unavoidable. Her lawyer stopped speaking. Didn't interrupt. Didn't argue. Because there wasn't a clean argument anymore. You didn't mention this, the judge said, not to me. To her. That mattered. A lot. It's not relevant, her lawyer replied quickly. Wrong answer. It is, I said, calm, controlled. Because it establishes a pattern. Now the room was completely still, no movement, just attention. Fraud, I added. 1 word. Heavy final. My aunt finally spoke. But her voice wasn't steady anymore. These are misinterpretations. I placed 1 more item down, the photos. I didn't explain them, didn't need to, because the moment they hit the table, everything changed. The judge leaned forward, looked closer, then again. Because now, this wasn't theory, this wasn't paperwork, this was visual, clear, undeniable. What am I looking at? The judge asked. My grandmother. Pause. And the moment she was missiled into signing those documents. That was it. That was the line. The one that landed. The one that shifted everything. Silence. Real silence this time. The kind that fills a room. The kind you can feel. I looked at my aunt. She wasn't calm anymore. Not composed. Not controlled. Because now there was no version of this where she stayed ahead, not here. Not in this room. Not in front of these people. And for the first time, she knew it. No one spoke, not immediately. Because everyone in that room was looking at the same thing. The photos, the signatures. The moment frozen, clear, undeniable. The judge didn't rush, didn't react quickly. He just kept looking. That was worse. Because silence meant processing. Meant this wasn't small. This was witnessed. He asked, not loudly, not aggressively, but enough to shift the air in the room. No, I said, honest. But it was documented. I slid the next paper forward. Transfer records. Same date. Same signature. Her lawyer stepped in. This doesn't prove intent. Then what does? I cut in. First time I interrupted. On purpose. Because now, this wasn't about being polite. This was about being clear. He paused. Just long enough. That mattered. She's making assumptions, my aunt said. Her voice was sharper now. Less controlled, more exposed. That's not evidence. I didn't look at her. Not yet. Because I didn't need to. Then explain the payments, I said. Still looking at the judge. Every 3 months. For 20 years. I tapped the statements lightly. Same numbers, same pattern, same account. Why didn't those appear in the estate records? That was the hit. Direct. And this time, her lawyer didn't answer. Because he couldn't. Because now, this wasn't a misunderstanding. This was a mission, and a mission is where things start to fall apart. Derek shifted in his seat. Uncomfortable. He leaned toward her, low voice. You said that account was closed. Not a question. A realization. She didn't look at him. Didn't respond, because now she was losing control of more than just the room. She was losing control of him. It was complicated, she said finally. Wrong answer. Too vague. The judge looked up. Complicated doesn't exclude disclosure. That line landed hard, because now, this wasn't emotional. This was legal, and legally, she was exposed. Her lawyer tried again. These documents still don't directly connect. I placed the letter on the table, the second one, not the old one, the recent one. My dad's, he stopped mid-sentence. Because something about it felt different. This was written in 2014, I said, by my father. I didn't read the whole thing. Didn't need to, just one part, carefully. Slowly. I couldn't prove it then, but I knew she wouldn't stop. Silence again. But different this time. Heavier. Because now, this wasn't just evidence. Recognized, documented. My aunt stood suddenly. Too fast. That letter means nothing, she said. But her voice wasn't steady anymore. It's not legal evidence? No, I said, and now, I looked at her, directly. It's context. That word mattered a lot. Because context connects everything. The fraud, the pattern, the silence. The preparation. You don't understand what you're doing, she said again. Same line. Different tone. It sounded like fear. I understand exactly what I'm doing, I replied. Calm, clear. No, she said. You're destroying your own family. That word again. Family. Used like pressure, used like guilt. But now, it didn't land the same. Then why did you hide it? I asked, simple, direct. No emotion. That was the break, the real one. Because she opened her mouth, and nothing came out. Not immediately. Not cleanly. Because there was no clean answer left. You think you're better than us, she snapped. There it was. Not defense. Not logic, attack. You weren't even supposed to know, she added. And the moment she said it, she realized. Too late. Because the room heard it too. Every word. Every implication. You weren't supposed to know. That wasn't denial, that was confirmation. Her lawyer closed his file slowly. Didn't speak. Didn't intervene, because now, he understood something too. This wasn't winnable, not cleanly, not publicly. The judge leaned back, looked at everything on the table, then at her. Did you or did you not disclose these financial interests in the estate filings? No escape now. No space to redirect, just a question. Direct, final. She didn't answer immediately, and that was the answer. Derek stood. Stepped back from the table. Distance clear. Visible, because now he wasn't standing with her anymore. He was separating, that mattered. A lot. I need a moment, her lawyer said. The judge nodded. Short, controlled, but his expression had already changed. Because now, this wasn't a hearing anymore. This was a problem. I sat back, didn't speak, didn't move, because now, I didn't need to push. Everything was already happening, exactly the way it needed to. My aunt looked at me, not angry, not confident, just exposed. You could have handled this privately, she said. One last attempt. Quiet, almost reasonable. No, I said, and that was it. No explanation, no justification, just truth. Because this was never going to stay private. Not after everything she did. Not after everything she hid. Not after everything she tried to take. The room was still, but not empty. Full of realization, of judgment, of consequences, and for the first time, the story she built wasn't controlling the room anymore. I was. The room didn't reset, it didn't calm down. It stayed exactly where it was, tense, heavy, waiting, because everyone knew this wasn't over. Not yet. Her lawyer returned first. Different now, not confident, not smooth, careful. Which meant one thing, he'd seen enough. Would like to clarify. No, the judge said. Not loud. Not aggressive. But final. That stopped everything. Because now, this wasn't a discussion. This was a decision. The judge looked down at the documents, the photos, the statements, then at her. Longer than before. Why were these financial interests not disclosed? Same question, but this time, there was no space left around it. No escape. No interpretation. Just truth. She stood again, slowly, like she needed time to rebuild control. But it wasn't there anymore. It wasn't relevant, she said. Wrong again. Income derived from property assets is directly relevant, the judge replied. Flat, clean, legal. And that was the moment. Because now, her version of the story was officially broken. Derek didn't sit this time. He stepped back, further. Visible to everyone, that mattered. Because now, she was standing alone. This is being exaggerated, she said. Her voice sharper now. Not careful. They're twisting things. They, the judge interrupted. One word. But it cut clean. She stopped. Just for a second. That was enough. I didn't speak. Not yet, because I didn't need to. The room was already moving, without me. Her lawyer tried again. There's no direct evidence of coercion. I reached into my bag. Pulled out the letter. The original. The one from behind the mirror. Set it down. Deliberately. This is from 1992, I said, calm. Steady. My father wrote it? No one moved. No one spoke. Because something about that felt different. I unfolded it. Didn't rush, didn't dramatize. Just read. I know she isn't mine. But I will love her as my own. A pause. Then, if you ever tell her the truth, I will tell her what you did. Silence, immediate, complete. That was it. That was the moment. The one the title promised. The one everything had been building toward. The room didn't react loudly. It didn't need to, because everyone understood what that meant. The judge leaned forward. What you did, he repeated, looking at her. Directly. Care to explain that? No answer, not immediately, not cleanly. Because there wasn't one. That letter proves nothing, her lawyer said. But even he. It proves awareness, I said, still calm, still controlled. It proves this wasn't accidental. I looked at her. Finally. Fully. And it proves he knew. That landed hard. Because now, this wasn't just about money, this was about intention, about history, about something she had buried for decades. You're twisting his words, she said, weak, defensive, late. I'm reading them, I replied. Simple, final. The judge looked back down at the table, then closed the file, not loudly, not dramatically, but that sound, that quiet closing, echoed in the room, because everyone knew what it meant. The submitted handwritten will is suspended pending further review, he said. Clear. Official. And based on the additional evidence presented, a pause. The estate remains under the legal ownership of Emma Shaw. That was it. The shift. Complete. Irreversible. She didn't move, didn't react. Because now, there was nothing left to hold on to. Further investigation into the financial disclosures will be initiated. The judge continued. Legal. Precise. Any failure to disclose relevant income may result in civil penalties. There it was. Not just loss. Consequences. Real ones. Her lawyer didn't speak. Didn't object. Didn't argue. Because now, this wasn't winnable. Not here. Not today. The room stayed quiet, but not empty. Full. Of understanding. Of the moment, everything changed. She looked at me. One last time. Not confident. Not controlled. Just exposed. She said quiet. Almost steady. I held her gaze. Didn't look away. It is, I said. And that was it. No speech. No anger. No victory pose. Just truth. Because this wasn't about winning. It never was. It was about stopping something that should have ended a long time ago. I folded the letter, carefully, the same way I found it, but this time it wasn't hidden, it wasn't behind anything, it was seen, heard, understood. And for the first time, no one in that room could pretend otherwise. The house was quiet again, not the same quiet as before. Not empty. Not heavy, just still. The kind of stillness that comes after something finally ends. I stood in the kitchen for a while. Same place. Same counter. But it didn't feel like hers anymore. It felt like mine. Not because of the court. Not because of the documents. Because for the first time, nothing in this house was hidden. The letter was still in my hand. I hadn't put it away yet. Didn't want to. Not immediately. Because it didn't feel like evidence anymore. It felt like something else. Something closer. Something final. I walked back to her bedroom, slow. Not avoiding it this time. Not hesitating. The mirror was still on the dresser. Tilted slightly forward. Just like I left it. I reached out. Set it straight, carefully, like I was putting something back, the way it was always meant to be. Then I opened the drawer. Took out a small frame. Nothing special. Plain wood. I placed the letter inside, smoothed it down, closed the back, and set it on the dresser. Not hidden, not behind anything. Right there, where it could be seen, because that's where it belonged. I stood there for a second, looking at it, and something shifted. Not sharp, not sudden, just settled. He knew my whole life, he knew, and he stayed, not because he had to, because he chose to, every day, without saying it, without explaining it, just staying. I used to think love had to be loud, clear, obvious. But his wasn't. His was quiet, consistent, built into everything he did. And somehow, that made it stronger. I walked out of the room, down the hallway, past the photos on the wall. The same ones that had been there for years, family dinners, birthdays, ordinary moments. Nothing about them had changed. But I saw them differently now, but as a real one, and that mattered more. My phone buzzed. I looked down. A message. You okay? Simple. No pressure. I stared at it for a second, then typed back. Yeah, I think I am. A pause. Then another message. Workshops open Saturday. No pressure. I smiled. Just a little, because that felt right, not forced, not rushed, just there. I stepped outside. The air was cooler, late afternoon, quiet street, normal, completely normal. And that was the strange part, because everything had changed, and nothing had. Watering her plants, she looked up, saw me. Didn't ask questions, didn't need to. She just nodded. Soft. Understanding. I nodded back. That was enough. Inside the house, the silence felt different now. Not something to fill, something to keep. I made tea. Sat at the table. The folder was still there. The documents. The statements. All of it. Proof, truth, history. For a second, I thought about what to do next. Legal follow-up, paperwork. More calls, more process, and all of that mattered, but not today. Today I just sat, held the cup, and let everything slow down, because this was the part no one talks about. After the truth comes out, after the confrontation, after the moment everyone sees it, there's no music, no big ending, no perfect resolution, just quiet and space, and time to understand what everything actually meant. I thought about her. My mother. Not the version from court. Not the one from the documents. The one who used to sit right here. Drink her coffee. Call me into the kitchen. Ask if I'd eaten. She wasn't just one thing. None of us are. And that was the hardest part. She made choices. Some of them hurt people. Some of them hurt me. But she was still my mother. And that didn't disappear just because the truth showed up. I didn't forgive her. Not completely. Not yet. Maybe not ever. But I understood her a little more. And sometimes, that's where it starts. The sun was starting to drop. Light shifting through the windows. The same way it always did. Nothing about that had changed. I picked up the folder. Closed it. Set it aside. Not hidden. Just finished for today. Then I stood up. Walked to the hallway. Looked at the framed letter again. Took a breath. My dad, I said quietly. Not correcting it. Not questioning it. Just saying it because that's what he was. Not by blood. By choice, and for the first time that felt complete. My phone buzzed again. Another message. Don't forget, measure twice. I laughed. Soft. Unexpected. Real. I looked around the house one last time. Not to check anything. Not to fix anything. Just to see it. As it was now. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't standing inside a story someone else had written. I was standing inside my own.